Welcome to the Inflection Podcast, where we explore the pivotal moments that have shaped us into who we are today. I am your host, Anebi, and I can't wait to dive into these moments with you. Let's get it.
Welcome to the Inflection Podcast. It's super amazing to have you with me here today, Yvonne. I appreciate you popping on with me.
It's a pleasure as always, Anebi.
Awesome. So you are CTO at Global Media Outreach, and ever since we connected via work some years ago, I've wanted to record something. We've had all those interesting conversations that you think, oh gosh darn it, I wish we recorded it, and here we are finally recording something. So I appreciate you hopping on with me. I would like to explore a few angles. Obviously, this is the Inflection Podcast. I like to look at inflection points along the way for innovative leaders in my network. And one of the things I want to start off with is with your journey, right? Getting into the career you have right now, with leadership roles, and diving into some challenges you might have had along the way, if any.
Oh, everyone has challenges. That makes it all the better.
Yes, I know, right? So how did that start for you? Like today, you're a CTO at Global Media Outreach. What has that looked like? Some benchmarks along the way, if you will.
Sure. I think that every technologist has a story. That moment when you realize this is what I'm meant to do. So for me, it started when I was in grade school and I took apart our VCR. It was a beta back then. That kind of dates me, but I took it apart and put it back together. And why did I do that? I had to know how it worked. So I had this innate curiosity from the get-go. Fortunately, my father has an engineering background and he saw that and he quickly gave me things to do around the house. Like, oh, you need to fix the burner on the stove. Oh, fix the garbage disposal. So though I have been a software engineer, I've also worked with hardware in the medical device industry. So for me, it's more than software. It's like technology being fully utilized to enable and create and accelerate, solve problems.
Yeah, amazing. Much respect for the hardware folks. In my family, that was always my brother. He was more into hardware, and I preferred the software side of things. But my mom definitely encouraged fixing things. I remember a lamp would be broken, and before calling the repairman, she'd say, "Hey, take a stab at it, try to fix it." So I think that gave me an early foray into tech too. And then my brother obviously helped me get started. I remember him tearing apart computers, and soldering. It's so weird, but I still like the smell of soldering iron. Because
good memories, right?
Nostalgia. I remember all those nights, late nights of watching my brother solder, motherboards and all that fun stuff. But yeah, next thing I want to explore, as a woman in tech, what would you say has shaped you uniquely as a leader, as a female leader in tech? Because I know that's not easy.
Well, I have been fortunate to have some amazing mentors in my life. As I look across my career, there's always been someone, no matter what stage I was in, who was really shepherding me along the way. That person who would tell you when you blew it, that person that would tell you, when you hit it out of the ballpark. And also just a model to watch great leaders do what they do. I've had some really good role models. I've had the opportunity to work at places like the University of Denver. I know my boss, Ken, like he would spend hours talking to me about who I needed to be in the leadership role I was in. And that was so helpful to connect your full being, your full person into your job. That was paramount for me.
Totally. That's amazing. And along those lines, I feel like the best mentors and leaders, they call you forth into what you could be, right? They see the potential. And that's something I think there was a time, like, you've been a good mentor to me as well. All those calls, asking for advice and stuff. And I really appreciate your generosity with your time and offering advice. I remember one of the questions I had asked you was, with leadership, did you ever feel like you had to be doing all the things and then you're like, oh, yay, you're a leader? Or did you have some ingredients and there was, some more to do to fully step into that? And did you have people who like called you forth into that?
Absolutely. That was absolutely my experience. I was fortunate enough to work for bosses who saw my potential and they would push me. And they would never give me the answer. They'd give me a step towards the answer, but they would never just say, here you go. I'm going to make it easy for you.
Yeah.
They always invited me to explore my own mind and trust my own instincts and really do my own research. And I think that's really important in technology because it's ever changing. You are a knowledge worker. You're constantly learning. You're constantly challenging your assumptions or even use cases for modern technology. I think you have to have that posture of continuous learning.
Yeah, 100%. That's a perfect segue, actually. The tech ecosystem is always evolving so fast, right? And this is kind of a broad question, but as you look at the tech ecosystem broadly, how do you see it evolving? And what are some opportunities and maybe even challenges you see? I know AI is all the rage. We can talk about that, but just what are some key opportunities you see and perhaps challenges?
So I love talking about the fourth industrial revolution. You and I have talked about this, and it's very real. And really, this is the age of AI, right? So we've entered this new era. We have more data, faster chipsets, more capabilities than we've ever had in human history. I mean, from a technological perspective.
Yeah.
And I think the question is now what? What are we going to be doing with it? As we look at the big tech companies, they're leading out in very different ways. So, I remember the day when, I told my husband, I said, you know what? I'm telling you, Amazon's going to get into medical. He's like, I don't know. Why would they do that? I said, just watch. And what you're seeing is, right? I mean, you're seeing an advent of these big tech companies getting into everything. Like, they have a solution for everything. So it really makes me think about back to the, platform days when we started connecting users with value. But now put that on a global scale. I think you might see some consolidation in the industry. I think the AI arms race is really interesting to watch. Bothers me that people have not retained their ethicists. That is a concern. But I think leaders are going to have a challenge learning how to apply technology to their organizations because there's so many options. There's so many use cases. This leading product in an organization. Which opportunities do you pursue? So I feel that innovation discussion and that how do I approach that as a CEO is going to be really important.
Yeah, I think more than ever before, with the deluge of data and information we have out there, right? The emphasis is going to increasingly be on high quality information and also ability to decipher to decipher what's real and what makes sense from that massive amount of data. So I mean, we've seen with AI, right? I can easily go to ChatGPT or similar tool to spin up write me a blog post or write me a LinkedIn post and things like that. But anyone can do that. So increasingly, we'll be focused on, okay, what's unique about this
Right.
code, right?
Right.
Does it speak to me as a human? Is there personality to it? So I'm already seeing that happen where people are beginning to look for more quality versus quantity. And same goes for CEOs and executives making decisions like, we have way too much data. How can we get to quality decisions? And that gives me some ideas for some things to work on, which we've even talked about, like more think tank type stuff with like white papers and going deeper versus, hey, here's a lot of content for you. It's like, how can we give you high quality stuff that you can act on immediately?
And that's key. It's being able to act upon that information and building that bridge into worlds that people don't live in. I mean,
Yeah.
AI, I know, again, all the rage, but when you talk about being a practitioner, what it really means to build those systems and tools, chances are there's a handful of people around you that really understand your day job, what you do. But,
Yeah.
Right? So it's that translation layer between the techies, the people who are actually building the engine and the tools and leadership to find ways to practically talk about the opportunities. And I think those people who are those translation layer types, I think they're going to have a lot of job security, because as we grow, these adaptive complex systems grow, you're going to need that sort of whisperer, that tech whisperer to help you navigate your different opportunities, because you inherently aren't going to, follow through on every opportunity you have.
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the key shifts I'm looking to make in product this year. As I work as a product leader, is many times a lot of the decisions we make or even planning is reactive. Things happen, you need to react, and I want to focus on being more strategic and forward looking. Work on the data, work on research, and then that informs more features and informs the roadmap down the road, versus being, there's always going to be a certain degree of reactivity because we can't predict everything. But I think that's something worthwhile, looking more into the future. It does raise something when we're talking earlier before the pod. We talked about AI, right? AI is democratizing access to information. We have Microsoft pushing Power Platform, going all in on that with an AI builder, Power Automate, other kinds, Power Apps, Power Web Pages. This is raising, on the one hand, a new generation of what I would call citizen developers. You really don't need to know what's under the hood. You just need to know how to use the tool and understand your business use case to apply it to. Now, it's great because you can move a lot faster, but you raise something interesting, and but is that the best thing? Because you mentioned when you taught HTML back in the day, right? It was good for folks to know how it worked. Yes, you can use Dreamweaver at the time or similar tools, but if you know how it interacts with CSS and web pages and DNS and all of those things work, then inherently you can do a much better job. So can you explore that just a little bit, that concern?
Sure. I even saw this when I was in the university system. I was interacting with students in the computer science and information technology realm, and I asked them, how many hours of coding, or, how many classes are you taking in software engineering and programming? And I was alarmed. Like, it was lower than I thought it should be. Like, oh yeah, I have a semester or two. Of course, the computer science folks have more. But what I saw is just the fundamentals, like understanding the fundamentals of computing. So as we have these tools that do things for us and abstract things for us, what are we missing fundamentally from an architecture perspective? Understanding how components fit together. I think there's a disconnect, because really what you're doing is you're creating a black box, and you don't know what's happening in that black box. It could be good, I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that these tools don't have their place. They do. But I
Yeah.
think for more robust applications, for situations where you have compliance considerations, like I worked in medical devices, we're going to have to be really careful about when we apply those tools. I think it's going to be,
100%.
again, back to use case.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. What is one thing you wish you knew when you started your journey, your career journey all the way to now? Like, is there something you wish you knew then?
Oh, I'm going to get really personal here. So if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see I have a psychology degree in addition to studying technology. And so I'm a big fan of Myers-Briggs, and I'm an INTJ. So for a female INTJ, that's 0.08% of the world. So
Wow,
usually
you're
my
a rare breed.
wiring is found in male packaging. So I wish I had understood that sooner, like how as a woman I need to relate differently and lead differently. And I'm not saying that I am not as effective or don't have the same opportunities. I'm just saying that it looks different for a woman to lead. And when you are a female with sort of male brain tendencies, like, I didn't have a good mentor for that. Like, I didn't know anybody who was dealing with the same issues. So I wish I had explored that a little bit more. Like, who am I? How am I wired? How is that unique? How does that apply to what I do? And then how do I bring my full self to the role in a way that respects, my person? And that's going to look a little different for everyone. Like, I love, productivity books and, leadership development books, but that's only, food for thought. You can't apply 100% of that. I just wish I'd found that mentor earlier on, I guess.
And thanks for your honesty there. I had to look that up. I am an ENFP campaigner. I resonate with what you said, but I came across 16 personalities. It's based on Myers-Briggs some years ago, and that was so instrumental. I put a link to it. Maybe you're familiar with it. And that really helped me realize I'm not so weird after all, because this is based on years and years and years of research with thousands, maybe even millions of data points. And many times reading the personality profiles, it's very uncanny, it's eerie, like, wow, this is me. And then it talks about strengths, weaknesses, friendships, parenthood, career paths. It's amazing.
I
It's one
love
of
this
the best
tool.
things that happened to me some years ago, to discover kind of like a map of my personality, potential weaknesses, and how I could overcome that. And then you get the nuggets, right, via email. You can go deeper via courses. It was very helpful to me.
I'm a
I'll
fan
put
of
a link
16
to it.
personalities. Yeah, I think it's a great tool. In fact, my team, we've all taken the test. It helps with understanding how to communicate with one another.
Totally.
And really, we tend to communicate in a way that's meaningful to us, and we need to tailor our communications to the recipient. And so that gives you some clues as to what that might look like.
Yeah. And that concludes it. I really appreciate you popping on with me. But one thing I'd love if you could do, what is an advice you'd give to, folks, maybe even women in particular, who are on a precipice? They're looking to make a leap, whether into leadership or maybe even starting their careers or starting a business. A lot of us struggle with fear and indecision, and that paralyzes you. Steve Jobs talks about real artists ship, right? You ship. It's not an absence of fear. It's in spite of it, you make the leap. But from your anecdotal experience, for folks that are looking to level up and grow, what would you say to such a person?
I would say leap. The thing
Just do
is
it.
the thing is that you'll never be 100% ready for what life will bring you. I mean, this applies to your career as well as family, friends, all of it. you're going to learn so much by doing, and it's okay to be uncomfortable. There are going to be moments where you're going to be really confident and you're going to be really sure that you're doing all the right things. And then you'll have moments of challenge where you're growing and you're struggling. Lean into that. Those are the times you're going to learn the most. And this goes back to, obviously, you can see that I really believe in mentorship and I really believe in community. Surround yourself with the right people that can have those hard conversations with you, that can take the other position. I think rigorous debate needs to be taught in every school on the planet. Find that person who's willing to tell you, hey, I don't see it the same way. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. People who can, poke holes at your assumptions and, help you think about it from the other perspective. I did debate class in what we call primary school. I don't know what the equivalent of that is in America. Maybe middle school, I guess. And that was very helpful to know how to marshal your thoughts and also even look at the opposing view and sometimes play devil's advocate, because I think that really helps with critical thinking. We live in a culture where increasingly, if I disagree with you or you disagree with me, you hate me. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, no, it's possible to say two things. It's possible to say I love you and I disagree, right?
Absolutely.
My wife started talking about that the other day, and it's like, that's life. We can't all be the same and have the same thoughts and perspectives. I think many times it's even healthy to have those opposing viewpoints because it helps us grow.
Yeah, as a human-centered designer, multiple perspectives is the name of the game, right? And really doing everything you can to remove bias from the equation. Obviously, you can't do that 100%, but there are definitely tactics and strategies to limit it, because we don't know what we don't know sometimes, and that's okay. And I think we just need to plan for that.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much, Yvonne, for popping on with me today. I hope to have you on more episodes of the Inflection podcast.
Thank you so much, Anebi.
Sure.